Are you a team manager struggling to lead your team well? Have you been asked to lead HR, but it's your first time? Or are you an HR pro looking for your tribe? While We Were Working is the show for you. With quick tips and tough topics in 30 minutes or less, the Jumpstart HR team is here for you. So let's get into it. Hey, welcome to another episode of While We Were Working. It's the show to help busy people leaders connect with some of the topics that they may not have paid attention to or been aware of while you were working. I am Joey Price, one of the hosts, and joined with Sommer Ketron. How's it going, Sommer?
Hey Joey, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you over there?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Well, there's a lot of tech issues going on here, but I think we're gonna be able to make it. So, what is your high-low buffalo? I wanna audible a little bit. Maybe your high-low buffalo from this past week, or your high-low buffalo from this year. And for those who are tuning in for the first time, if you can tell them what crazy talk I'm talking about as far as high-low buffalo.
Sure thing. So I'd love to do a quick recap, Joey, at the beginning of our shows. For our new listeners and viewers, Hilo Buffalo is our weekly activity that we do in Jumpstart, where we share out on our Slack channel something that went really great, something that maybe we messed up or didn't go so well, either in work or life, and then Buffalo, which is totally something random. That's always fun to share. And this is one of my favorite parts of the week, actually, because we learn so much about our team. We can support them if they're going through something that's maybe a little tough, and we can also celebrate their wins. So let's go ahead and dive into it, Joe. You ready?
Let's do it.
I have to say I wasn't quite ready for a high-low buffalo of the year, so I think I'm going to have to come back to you on that one because, gosh, what a year it has been. But for the week, Joey, I mean, certainly celebrating Christmas with my family was an absolute highlight. It feels kind of weird though, because it just doesn't quite feel like winter or the holidays, but it takes me right into my low. I'm really not ready for the new year, but regardless, it is coming. I'm really excited for what the year holds. And to take you into my Buffalo, Joey, I know we talked a little bit about Rivian when they had their IPO a while back. What I didn't share with you was that I actually pushed the reserve button for
Ooh,
vehicles. So I got an email this morning actually saying that the specific package that was on reservation is actually going to be the first builds to be delivered at some point next year. So really excited for that.
nice. You have to do it while we were working from your Rivian, so we can do a tour of it when it gets delivered.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I'm sure there's going to be so many people that are just interested and excited, and I'm excited. I'd love to share it. But what about your high-low Buffalo, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about this week, spending time with family is a high. You know, we did the super safe bubble dinner where it's a little weird. We all had masks on and we're in different areas of the house, but it was just good to gather. And I guess the low would be that some of our family members weren't able to attend, probably similar to most of us out there. um, Omicron has impacted my family, so some of our cherished family members weren't able to be at the dinner table, but they got to go plates and people took care of them. So, tried to make the most of it. And my buffalo for this week is, I guess, I mean, I'm doing the show from my phone, which is in entrepreneurship, you learn to pivot, and you have to pivot very quickly. So we're just running this from my phone, um, and that is my buffalo because it took me off guard. That, of course, of all the times that my computer would give me problems, it'll be now. But that's my high low buffalo. Let's jump into consultants corner, or while we were working. Let's jump into while we were working.
Sounds good, Joey. Thanks for sharing your high-low buffalo. It sounds like it was a great holiday for you as well, and hopefully we'll be having different discussions next year about finally being able to get all of our family members in one spot.
Yeah.
But nice work in pivoting with the phone. I'm thinking that this might be the beginning of while we were working like on the go.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely in the roadmap, whether it's taking the show on the road at conferences or just at client meetings, and there's a lot of fun things that we'll get into in 2022. So you're right, not to leak too much, but we will take this show on the road.
Sounds good, Joey. Well, to dive into this week's article, it was from a website called HR Dive. And this one I thought was really, really relevant and on target in terms of time. And this article was about 5 common sense pandemic provisions that workers lose at year end. So for you HR pros out there, I'm sure you've probably encountered something related to this over the past year or two, and that is that there were several provisions that were put into place to help workers, and they were put into place essentially to help them maximize their benefits during the pandemic. And unfortunately, they're slated to end just here in a couple of days. And so I thought that this would be a really great topic, Joey, for you and I to chat about. One, so that if HR pros aren't aware that this is possibly going to happen, that it's on their radar, I anticipate they're going to get questions. So just to be kind of on guard and help them navigate it the best that we can.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's something for HR pros to pay attention to as well as business owners because the implications of these may extend beyond, HR, but also operations. And I'd love to jump into some of them so that we can kind of put the context around what it means for the HR pro, what it means for the employee, and what it means for a business owner.
Sounds great, Joe, and you're totally right. This applies really to many small businesses, and so we'll try to keep it short and simple. And if you guys have questions, then feel free to drop them in the chat or shoot us over a message because we always love to hear from you guys. But first order of business is the CARES Act Safe Harbor. So this was one of them that actually allows health plans to cover telemedicine before meeting deductibles. And so, of course, in the age of pandemic, needing to seek care and maybe not feeling safe, actually venturing out into a hospital or urgent care setting. This one was super important, Joey. And without, any sort of, kind of last minute changes to the existing provisions, we're going to lose that starting next year.
I think that's unfortunate because telemedicine is really the wave of the future. I think it would allow more patients to be seen for as far as scale, but also from an equity and accessibility perspective. If you have a cell phone, you have a doctor, right? Because you can
Right.
just just like on my phone now, you could Skype in or Zoom in or however that works with the tools that doctors use. So I think that's pretty unfortunate that it's ending, but it does. I think that the application for HR and the business owner is like what that means for time off. And if we think about the idea of maybe someone can show up to work and if they just need a quick check with the doctor, they could just hop on their phone, meet with the doctor. If the doctor gives them the all clear, then they go back to work. But now it seems like that's going away. So whether a person has a big boo boo or not, they've got to go into the office, and time is money. So there could be implications there, and for the HR pro, I think just tracking time spent on sick leave and paid time off for medical visits. You just want to be mindful of that. But those are some of the things I think of when I think about this benefit going away. I wish that were not the case, but here we are.
Yeah, it is super unfortunate, Joey. And, to kind of build on to one of the things that you were saying earlier about how telemedicine actually opens up accessibility to a wider audience. Quite frankly, I would love to see this be something that continues on indefinitely, because I do think that it allows individuals to seek care, even pandemic aside. It allows them to seek care when maybe they would otherwise be hesitant to, for some conditions. And one last thing before we move on this same note, I actually have one of the small businesses that we work with actually expand their sick time that they're offering to team members. And while it's not directly related to this, I think that it does go hand in hand with one of the items that you were saying. And it's definitely something I'd recommend other companies consider, that it might be, excuse me, might be a good option for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, I think, you know, I don't have the stats, but I'd imagine we're taking more time off for health issues, more than ever. And I wonder if we're taking off more time now for health than for vacation. So maybe this is a good time to audit your time and attendance policies and your leave policies, and say, are you giving adequate either time off or flexibility for workers to have a great experience in your company, and get the care that they need for themselves, for their families, for their pets, who are also family. So it health is a big issue for HR for 2022 and beyond.
Great, Joey. Well, let's dive into number 2. This was the CARES flexibility for flexible spending accounts. And this one was a really big topic in that participants could actually change their elections at any time. So for those of you that are familiar with flexible spending accounts, you make your election during your enrollment window, and you're only able to make a change if you have a qualifying event. But
Yep.
the CARES Act changed that and made it really flexible, which I know a lot of folks took advantage of. And again, Joey, without any changes, this one's going away as well.
Wow. So I don't I don't know what to think about that one, because while it is, I would imagine, a happy medium would be like a mid-year evaluation for your FSA, because with the way that FSA works, um, it's use it or lose it. And if you are able to course correct and add more, dollars from your pay to your flexible spending account, that also improves the employee experience just in general. So, I mean, we're 2 for 2 on things that were a really good idea to implement just in general. And so it's interesting that with the pandemic still here, with us still having more cases in a day than before, that we're taking away some of these important benefits.
I totally agree, Joey. And I think when we get to the end of this list, I'd love to hear your thoughts as to if you anticipate that they will be reinstated in the new year or not.
Yeah.
So moving us right along, number 3 was that, and this was a biggie, especially for folks that have kids at home for dependent care. So call it ARPA, ARPA. There was a higher dependent care contribution that you were able to make. So it was typically $5,000, but it was raised to $10,500, plus the ability to change your election mid-year in order to select that higher limit. So depending on how individuals, kind of working situations may have changed and their need for childcare, this was a huge one. And we're going to see it likely go away unless there's something implemented here last minute. And again, I think that's a big loss, Joey.
Yeah. Now, this is also a game changer. And when you think about competitive strategy as an employer, you have to pay attention to things like this, because, of course, the government won't do everything to make your employees happy. Like you have a responsibility to do that. I would say more so than government. But if these sort of flexible features are going away, and you don't have the ability to either have flexible work arrangements or offer childcare stipends or whatever the case may be, there's a strong chance that your employees may start looking elsewhere where those benefits are more amplified. And so, just because this is something that was a government benefit in this time, isn't something to take for granted. Because if your employees were aware of it and they took advantage of it, then I mean, their pre-tax or post-tax health, not health, but dependent care are going to rise, by that extra 5K next year, and that's impactful. So you have to look at like a competitive benefit strategy where the government helps you do a little bit, but you have to do a part. And so I think it's unfortunate.
You really covered it quite well, Joey. And I would also say that while it wouldn't necessarily apply to the same specific group that would, benefit from this additional dependent care contribution, I like to also think about what can companies do to potentially offset, what the ultimate goal is, right? And the ultimate goal here is maximizing take-home pay, right?
Hmm.
And being able to somehow, reduce that taxable income. And so where I'm going with this is that if you don't currently have a 401k and you're looking at benefits like this going away, where your team members are, trying to save money on taxes, then 401k, yes, not an alternative, but another vehicle to help them maximize their tax savings. There are things that you can do, like putting plans in place such as that, to at least help them start to chip away at that overarching goal.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the importance of benefits communication, which is something that I think we do pretty well with our clients, is helping not only, small business owners understand what plans they're buying or what plans they're getting for their teams, but also for team members how to maximize that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another point to emphasize is benefits communication and making sure your team gets the most of their benefits.
Mm-hmm.
How about we take two really good ones off the list, and you go first. I don't want to take up all the air in the conversation, but you lead the way on these next two, and then we'll jump into our consultants corner.
Sounds good, Joey. Well, the other one that I wanted to mention, which in this article is actually number 5, but I think it belongs right after number 3 as number 4 in the article, is related to the unlimited carryovers. We were just talking about these flexible spending account contributions. And so one of the provisions was that if employers did adopt this, it allowed unlimited carryovers for the 2020 and 2021 plan year for flexible spending accounts. And that's huge because, without those, there is no dependent care carryover, and healthcare carryover was limited to $750. So really would love to see some changes there. The last one that I wanted to mention, Joey, and we can kind of dialogue about is the COBRA subsidy. So there was a lot of talk about the COBRA subsidy, but yet I think a lot of companies were really struggling to understand, like, well, how do I actually do it? Like, do I pay for it? Do they pay for it? A lot of questions about this. But just to kind of summarize it, there was a 100% employer paid coverage requirement for anybody that was termed involuntarily
Mm.
or had their hours reduced. That's expected to go away. And, I guess I kind of see two sides to this. I feel like, there's kind of a time and place for it. I do think, that we're kind of at the point to where, we could potentially do without this one. If I think about like kind of force ranking the order of importance.
Yep.
But I know there's a lot of folks that still have medical needs and they would benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I mean that would definitely be a big bill for employers to carry, and considering that these past 20 months now have impacted not only individuals but organizations as well. It's hard to shoulder a huge load, especially if there were massive layoffs in an organization. Um, so that's important. And another thing that this all makes me think about, if I can be honest, is Summer, how many employers do you think actually knew that these provisions were in effect? Like, do you think that the average small business owner who's nose down running his graphic design studio or coffee shop, do you think these reached a lot of people? What do you think?
I That's a great question, Joey, and unfortunately, I don't think that most small businesses knew about it, and most of the time they find out because their employees inquire
Hmm.
and they're not quite sure what they're asking about, and that's when we hear from them, Joey, right?
Yeah,
Because the employers will reach out and say like, hey, I did a search on Google, it sounds like I'm supposed to be offering this Cobra subsidy, I have no idea what they're talking about, can you help? And of course we can help.
yeah,
But it's, to me, it's just really unfortunate that these benefits existed. And I don't think that it's necessarily easy for small businesses to understand and execute and provide the benefits to their team members. But of course, that's what we're here for, right?
yeah. That's definitely what we're here for. And I mean, some of the things that we discussed, like the FSA, um, under ideal conditions, and I'll say ideal because there's some things that you could do with the FSA, like spend all your money and then leave, if you're an
Right,
employee. But under ideal conditions, that's not an additional expense really for the employer to bear,
right.
because that's money coming out of a employee's paycheck.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think more companies need to be paying attention to what we're talking about. Pay attention to while we were working, become clients, because these are the type of things that we will share with you so that you're aware.
Sounds great, Joey. And I feel like, we can probably make episodes off of like while we were working just as like a full episode itself. But I know that a lot of our listeners and viewers really like Consultants Corner because we talk about a topic that they have that they've brought to us or that we've encountered in just kind of some of our internal discussions.
Yeah.
And the one that I've kept on our list to chat about was really, I think, timing wise, really great for end of the year as people start to think about their new year goals and reflect on the past year. And what I wanted to talk about, Joey, was really just finding your purpose, finding your ultimate happiness. Chatting a lot. We're chatting a lot with some of the groups that I belong to about job burnout and how
Mm.
that's impacting us personally, how it's impacting their teams. So I wanted to just have like a really casual conversation with you about like if somebody comes to you and says, I'm lost in my career, I'm not sure what happiness looks like. Yeah, I feel really burned out in my job. We have those conversations with team members, with maybe some of our own team and our family members. And I'll certainly share my thoughts, Joey, but I'm just really curious, like what type of questions or advice would you give to somebody if you knew that, this is kind of what what they're faced with right
Yeah.
now?
Great question. And it's something that at the end of the year, you take time, or you should be taking time to say, what worked, what didn't, what was I excited about, what was I not excited about. And I think it starts there, is like reflecting on how you got to where you are right now, and what were the highs, what were the lows, what were some of the best moments, what did people compliment you on, what are some of the things that you did that were effortless.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would probably open up this conversation more broadly to even folks that are thinking about career change,
Mm-hmm.
because someone may say, hey, I was I led I was a restaurant manager, but really, I want to be an artist, or I'd rather go into another line of work. And I say, um, I don't necessarily say follow your passion, but maybe follow your skills. And what do your skills reveal to you that you're really really good at, and which one of those are transferable? Because to be honest, I'm passionate about a lot of things, and maybe that's why I wear a lot of hats. But could I commit myself to all of those passions, or maybe some of the ones that I'm not more heavily committed to, and be as great there as I am with our team at Jumpstart? Probably not. And so, yeah, you want to do something that you're fired up about, but the example is like, I'm passionate about golf, right? But am I going to be a pro golfer?
Mhm.
Maybe I could be, but I'd be so far behind the curve. It'd be such a huge investment to get to that skill level. The sacrifices that would need to be made are like super, super strong.
Mhm.
So I would just say, well, like, what are you good at? What did people compliment you on?
Right.
Um, what comes easy to you? Um, those are some of the things I would start with, and
Mhm.
I would give them more questions and answers, because it's not for me to answer. It's for them
Right.
to kind of take it, chew on it, run with it for a little bit. What do you think, Summer?
I'd say you're right, Joey. And there's a couple conversations that I've had recently, and I've also reflected on myself that I thought would be great to share, because I can only imagine that others are, having similar thoughts and or have had similar thoughts. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I feel like in a lot of careers, there's kind of this association with achieving the highest position possible, and that like when I get to a certain position, whatever it is that I've predefined, I'll be happy, right?
Hmm.
So for me, Joey, I always thought, well, when I become a chief HR officer, I've made it. I'll be happy when I get there. And I
Hmm.
worked very hard to move up in the corporate world and sacrificed a lot to get to that, kind of get to that door of like, that was on my horizon. And
Hmm.
when I got there, Joey, I realized, and I kind of looked around and I was like, wow, like this is nothing like what I like thought it would be.
Yeah.
And when I really self-reflected, Joey, I realized that that wasn't what I really wanted. And so, I share this with people because I think we really need to now more than ever take a moment to reflect what is going to make us happy. And when I started to ask those questions, I was like, more time with my friends and family, more time traveling, more time making an impact in the businesses where I feel valued. And when I started to think about, being in kind of that high corporate level position, like depending on the company, it can be very, very stressful.
Yep.
Um, you don't get a lot of time for friends and family. Yeah, it'd be very difficult to travel unless like you work for, you know, like certain companies. So
Hmm.
for me, it was a big moment of reflection and really redefining happiness. And for me, it meant being able to like peel back all the layers, Joey. And for me, it was not necessarily achieving the position, but having a position that had enough power of influence to directly and significantly change the lives of other people.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a defining moment for me. And so the conversations that I've had with other HR professionals, and one of them was actually one of my prior bosses who's moved on to a new company and is in a VP role. We were talking a little bit about like, well, what's next for you? Like, what are you going to be happy doing? And, you know, after a long conversation, I shared with her that you don't have to move up to that next position to be successful. Like your happiness can be staying in position, Joey. And I think that's the overarching message that I want to send, is that you don't have to be a manager, or you don't have to be an executive. You don't have to be the next something to be happy or successful. If you are good at your job, then staying in position is totally fine. Like, stay where you're happy and successful,
Yep.
and like take the time to process what that might look like for you. And that's totally okay. But I think that, just society and like what we've seen happen in the past kind of dictates, or I think has kind of um, set that expectation a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And I come from a um, sport and performance background with my undergraduate stuff, and I think about the dominance of Tom Brady. I used to hate him as when he was a Patriot, but now I love him because he's on my team. But he's known as a quarterback. He didn't try to go and be a coach, GM, whatever the case may be. He's found the joy in honing in his skills, being an influential team player, collecting wins along the way, and that brings its own measure of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of I would agree with you. Now, as an entrepreneur, there's even levels that I think of, that I could fall into the trap of. Once I get 100 people on our team, or 1,000 people on our team, or whatever the case may be. But I'm enjoying the team that we have. I'm enjoying the growth in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
and the growth that we've experienced this past year. And so it's like, don't put pressure on yourself to. This is me talking to myself. This is free therapy. But don't put pressure on yourself to reach someone else's goal, right? Like, look at the road that's in front of you, and what does that pathway look like in the totality of everything, right? I think of you know, I want to run a company, but I also want to go to my kids' recitals, or
Right.
I want to run a company and be able to volunteer at my church. Like, it's all these things that matter to me, and I have a responsibility to create a winning environment for my team, but also, like, not get caught up in, oh man, this person just did this, or this person reached this milestone, because that's not where I am, and I'm happy with that. So uh, yeah, I guess we're ending the year on warm and fuzzies, right? Like own your
Well,
road, own your road.
yeah, I think gosh, it's like there's so much to chat about in that regard, Joey. But I think with so much going on, not only in our individual jobs, but our lives, I think it's just so important to take a moment to enjoy whatever sliver of happiness you might have. I always compare it to a pie, like
Hmm.
however much pie of happiness you have left, like find your happiness in your now. And if you don't feel like you have enough happiness in your now, then it may mean that 2022 is a year of change. And I'll kind of end on this note, Joey. Tying back to one of the things that you said earlier, if you're not happy, this may be an opportunity for you to make a career change. And I'm finding that with kind of the shortage of the workforce and the labor market, that there are more folks who are willing to make a change right now, because they're like, hey, I know my skills are in demand. I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm going to try something new, because I know, like, if it doesn't work, like, I'm very employable. I can get back into the workforce. And
Yep.
so, just something to think about. It's very different times right now. And I hope that whatever 2022 brings, that it brings great things, because I think we're all ready for it.
We are, and we are going to jumpstart our team, our clients, our workplace culture, and you, listener and viewer, by tuning into while we were working. So it's been another great episode. If you loved it, drop a comment, share it. If you're tuning in on a podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in. And can't wait to connect with you in the next episode and in the new year. So happy new year from Summer and I and the Jumpstart team. Looking forward to more inspiring and informative content in 2022, and more growth. So have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.